Bonjour à toutes et bonjour à tous, ici Ratchet Lombax et aujourd'hui je me retrouve avec Arne Meyer qui est
Directeur des communications.
Donc il est le directeur des communications de Uncharted 4 et du coup il travaille chez Naughty Dog et on va pouvoir lui poser quelques questions sur le solo.
We got a treasure to find.
Hang on, Nathan! Got this, I got this! I don't got this!
So, Arne, could you present yourself just to tell us when you joined Naughty Dog and what your role has been over the years?
Sure. I joined Naughty Dog in 2008, so just before we announced Uncharted 2. So I worked on Uncharted 2, Uncharted 3, Last of Us, now Uncharted 4. I started working at Naughty Dog basically as a community manager because multiplayer was being introduced into the game, and so that was one of the big things they're focusing on. And then over the years, I basically started to do anything that you see, like the blog, social media, coming to events like this, doing interviews. So basically all that sort of thing is what I've ended up doing.
When we just first saw the game last year at the PlayStation Experience, the level design was really well made because it was showing a lot of verticality. What are the main ambitions of the solo experience?
Basically, our guiding philosophy for the game is to saying, well, let's make the Uncharted game that we've always wanted to make and the one that we've always wanted to play.
Yeah.
And that means it's a combination of everything we've learned from the 3 Uncharted games before this. Great. What that means is that we're taking everything we've learned from the 3 Uncharted games that we've developed, all of the technology that we've come along and learned, and say, okay, how can we apply it on this new platform that allows us to do a lot more? And so one of the things you notice in terms of more verticality is now we have the ability to make a lot more expansive environments to allow for more player choice. So the thing, if you looked at the videos that we released from PlayStation Experience, and actually if you read about it, the path that we took from PlayStation Experience is not the only path through the environment. And that's been so it's always been our goal to give you more paths for the environment. And so we've been trying to open it up more. So we're able to have a lot broader environment for you to go through. And from the E3 demo, when you're taking the Jeep and you're going through the Madagascar city, if you look, there's different pathways. And it's the same concept there. Maybe that's not vertical, but the idea is we're giving you a lot more space to explore.
Amy Henning was the creative director for Uncharted 1, 2, and 3. How is it different when you're working with Neil Druckmann, who's worked on The Last of Us? The Uncharted series was known to be a little bit funny, and I'm kind of afraid that the Uncharted series with this 4th episode is going to be a lot more serious. So is it really that different for a 4th entry?
Well, the thing you have to remember too is that Neil was at Naughty Dog since the end of the Jack series. Yeah. So he cut his teeth with the Uncharted series, and he was co-writer for Uncharted 2. Yeah. So he understands very much the tones. I mean, so does the entire studio, the tone and sort of the pedigree of what the Uncharted series is. And it's funny when people start talking about, oh, is this going to take a serious tone? If you think of where the Uncharted series was going anyway, it was going in a very dark place to begin with, because you're learning more about Drake, you're learning more about the fact that he's had a lot of secrets, and he's not exactly the man that you come with, but it's always had some humor. And we everyone at the studio completely understands that, Drake is Drake because he's tongue-in-cheek, because he makes those things, and that's going to retain true now. I mean, we've always, when we go back and say, oh, this is the Uncharted game we've always wanted to make, it's because we're making sure that we always maintain, or we always stick to the core of what the Uncharted series has always been.
Regarding the voice actors, is there still room for improvisation for them, or did you just focus on the scenario and just stick with it till the end?
There's always been room for improvisation. So it goes back to our studio's always been very collaborative in every aspect of development. And I think you're probably referring to a lot of the times when we talk about how the acting process goes, where we do table reads and what happens on set, and that remains completely open, because really as much as anyone knows who Nathan Drake is or any of the characters, Nolan's been playing Nathan Drake for a very long time. He really knows what he's like. So of course we want to provide freedom for him to change things up, or act more natural, or provide feedback that makes our characters feel more grounded. And so there's always room for that.
Thank you very much for your time, Arne, and good luck with the rest of the series and working on the last month for the game.
Yep, thank you.
Je suis avec Robert Cogburn, qui est justement là pour présenter un petit peu le multijoueur d'Uncharted 4 à la Paris Games Week. On va lui poser quelques questions justement sur ce multijoueur uniquement, puisqu'il est justement chargé de vérifier un petit peu tout ça.
find some trouble, shall we? What goes up must go down.
So the first question is, what's your starting point when you started to work on the multiplayer of Uncharted 4?
Yeah, it's a good question. So a couple of things I personally was really trying to keep in mind was, can Uncharted 4 multiplayer be a culmination of the franchise? Like, how many elements of the different games can we get into multiplayer? Constantly trying to think of, in bringing in new elements, trying to make sure they carry this idea of high adventure. Like, can they feel Uncharted as often as possible? And then always thinking about teamwork, ensuring that any of the new gameplay systems we create or anything we're doing in our map design facilitates teamwork.
The teamwork aspect of the multiplayer, is it really important? Is there a buddy system that is implemented? Is there something really special, or is it just as focused on teamwork as the previous installments of the franchise?
It felt like the thing we've tried to accomplish with regards to teamwork is trying to get synergy between all the new gameplay systems we've created. So, for example, we've introduced something called the downstate, like what we had in The Last of Us, right? Yeah. And so, with the downstate, not only can I revive my teammate now by getting close to them, but we've also introduced a piece of gear called the Revive Pack. Okay. So I'm able to help my teammate from far away. Oh. Or we've introduced the mystical, the Chintamani Stone, and when I activate the Chintamani Stone, it revives any of the allies that are in the downstate around me. And so what we've tried to do with these new systems is to create synergy between them. Yeah. So for example, if you throw in the Wrath of El Dorado that causes the enemy team to scurry away, someone can activate their Jinn to catch up to them and take them out with their weapons.
So it's really more advanced than the previous installments.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. With all the new gameplay systems we've introduced, we just wanted to ensure that they could function together in a wide variety of ways, that when a team uses them in a coordinated fashion, there'd be a payoff.
Is this more of a continuity of the Uncharted 3 multiplayer, or is it just back to the roots kind of gameplay that fits with the Uncharted 4 solo experience?
I think Uncharted 4 multiplayer is more a culmination of all the lessons we've learned from Uncharted 2, Uncharted 3, and The Last of Us multiplayer. And so I think when players get their hands on the beta this December, they'll sort of see a lot of things that we've learned from those previous games applied into our moment-to-moment of multiplayer.
What assets have you used when you conceived the multiplayer maps? Were you just inspiring yourselves with the solo experience, or have you created complete wacky new environments?
Yeah, we definitely tried to leverage some of the art styles that have been established in single player in our multiplayer maps. I think when you play the final version of the game that comes out in March, you'll see a couple of environments that you might not have seen in the single-player game.
Are there multiple variations of the maps? Because I think in Uncharted 3 there were maps that were remixes of the Uncharted 2 multiplayer maps.
Molten Ruins, right?
Yeah, so for instance, would you have a map in the summertime and in wintertime?
We're going to have maps that will have unique environmental effects that are specific to those maps, but we're not going to have anything that sort of has day-night transitions or anything.
Okay. No. What are the main ambitions of the multiplayer mode that will attract players to play it when they're done with the single player?
I think fans of the Uncharted franchise will probably find it pretty interesting that they can play as a wide variety of characters that span all the games. So you'll be able to play characters all the way from Drake's Fortune all the way through Uncharted 4. And then with the introduction of the sidekicks and mysticals that we've introduced in the moment-to-moment, and then with sort of accessing those items by purchasing them in the store, I think fans will come to find that in multiplayer they're able to experience strong concentrations of Uncharted in the moment-to-moment of multiplayer with our mystical items and sidekicks.
Has the multiplayer mode impacted the solo experience in development costs and times used, assets used? And so on?
No, it hasn't been terribly impactful. In fact, this is the biggest the multiplayer team's ever been for Naughty Dog, and we have resources that have been sort of created specifically for multiplayer, so we sort of operate in a way that doesn't have a big impact on single player at all.
Is the solo experience team bigger than the multiplayer team?
Yes, single player is a much bigger team than multiplayer for sure.
I guess that's it. Thanks you very much for answering our questions, and I guess, well, good luck with the end of the development of Uncharted 4.
Thank you. I'll see you in December for the beta.
Sure.
Adios.